Good afternoon. Okay, today we're going to see the unit number 2 and we will start in this video with a lesson number 1. Look at the title of the unit 2. This is the title and here we have the name, okay, in lesson 1. If you don't remember, these are the objectives, the things we will learn in this unit. Past simple, past continuous. Here you will learn how to tell some stories. It could be about your life, something that has happened to you before. Okay, so if you can see here in this lesson, we have 3 different grammars. The 3 of them are about past. Look at the title. The first one is past simple affirmative. Number 2, past simple negative. And finally, we have the questions. Past simple questions. So, to remember a little bit about this grammar, we have these notes. Let's remember about them. Here we have the past simple affirmative. To speak in past, but affirmative or positive things, we need a subject, past of the verb, and a complement. If you don't remember, we divide or we have 2 categories of verb, the verb be and the rest of the verbs. Do you remember the verb be? That is 0 star. So we have am, is, and are. Am, is, and are in present. In past, we have was or were. Now, remember that am and is are in present. If you want to say am or is in past, it's gonna be was. And if you want to say are in past, it is going to be were. Okay? So here we have an example. I am at school today. This is in present, right? But we don't want to speak in present. So we are going to say I was at school last year. Because we are talking about the past. And as we are using I, we have to use was. If you are using she, you have to use was. But if you are using they, we have to say they were, okay? So here we have the list of the subject pronouns. If you are using the subjects I, he, and she, this is going to be was. I was, he was, she was. And if you are saying you, we, or they, it's with were. You were, we were, and they were, okay? That's the rule if you don't remember very well. Now, let's see the second category, that is the rest of the verbs. The rest of the verbs are divided into 2 categories also, the regular and irregular verbs. Do you remember the difference here? Well, regular are the ones that you have to add ed at the end when you want to convert the verb into the past form. For example, work with ed is in past, study with ed, studied, is in past, and listen, and we have a lot more. For example, I work so hard every day. This is in present. Okay, we don't need the present this time. So we have to say I worked. Okay? Remember the pronunciation. I worked extra time yesterday. And here we are saying that this thing happened in the past. Okay? In this case of irregular verbs, those are different words from the present verbs. So we have to memorize them. Do you remember? For example, do in past is did, make is made, have is had, think is thought, etc. Okay? For example, I do my homework at night. That is present. So if you want to say it in past, I did. Okay? I did my homework. This is with ed. This do is not with ed. It's a different word. You have to memorize the irregular verbs, okay? But don't get stressed about it. You can do it little by little, slowly, okay? Then, another example. She worked extra time last week. They did a lot of homework. What is that? That is, when you are using the verb be, you have to pay attention to the subjects because some subjects are with was, some subjects are with were, okay? This is different. But when you are using the rest of the verb, here we don't have a rule. I mean, if you are using I or we or she or they, every subject is with the same word. If you want to say I worked, it's gonna be she worked. or they worked. Or for example, here with did. If you say I did, it's gonna be he did or they did. That's the same, okay? This is basically the passive form in the weight affirmative, okay? Now let's see the negative. The negative is similar, but here we are using auxiliaries, okay? For example, here we have the formula subject, past negative, and then the verb. Here this verb has to be in present. I'm going to explain you why. First, let's see. We have two ways, one more time, the verb be and the rest of the verbs. Verb be in past. Do you remember? It was wasn't were. So here we are going to say wasn't and weren't. The same rule talking about the subjects. If you use I, it's gonna be I wasn't. I wasn't at school yesterday. Look, I wasn't, he wasn't, she wasn't. Same rule, okay? But with negative. Next, you weren't, we weren't, they weren't. Same rule, but with were in negative. Were not, okay? That is example. Now we have other verbs. Pay attention to this part. This is a little bit easy, but here you have to pay attention to the verbs. Look. For both, that is ambos, if you don't remember, regular and irregular verbs, we have to use the auxiliary did and the verb in present. For example, I didn't work yesterday. If you remember, trabajé is with ed, it is worked with ed. But here, if you are using didn't, you don't change the verb work because this is already the past tense. Aquí estamos usando did como un auxiliar. Acuérdense que este no es el pasado de hacer. Esta es una coincidencia que se diga did también hacer. Pero aquí estamos utilizando el did como un auxiliar para hablar en pasado. This word is only know, okay? But know in past. If you join or if you use those words together, this is going to be not work, but in past, okay? So I didn't work. It needs a verb in present. Next example. They didn't do. Look at this. This is the verb hacer. This is the auxiliary no in past. So we are using that ellos, or we are saying, that ellos no hicieron much homework last week. So that's the idea. When you are using an auxiliary, you don't change the verb because this is the past tense, okay? And the last part, the past simple questions. Sorry about the title, but this is past simple questions, okay? So here we have the same with the verb be or with other verbs. The questions, right? Here we have the formula. WH, past of the, subject and complement if you want to use it. Remember, we have two different kinds of questions. WH questions or yes, no question. But the formula is really similar, it's almost the same. If you say, or if you want to ask a WH question, is this formula. If you want to ask a yes, no question, only eliminate this and it's gonna be past of be, subject and complement. For example, where, this is the WH, where, without H, sin H, is the past of be. Then you, because where is with you or you is with where. And finally, the complement, yesterday. If you want to ask, ¿dónde estabas ayer? For example, estar, okay, verb be. So, in past, it's gonna be, were you, okay? Next example, yes, no question, okay? Aquí, como dijimos, pues nada más no toman en cuenta la WH. So, past of be, was, porque estamos hablando de she, okay? Was she at home last week? Was she at home last week? Question mark. Okay, this is important. Don't forget the question mark. And then we have with the other verbs. This is a little bit different. Here we are not using other verbs, okay? We are using only the verb be. Aquí nada más es el verbo be. Por lo tanto, es be, subject and complement. No estamos hablando de acciones, solo de ser o estar. Okay? Here, we are using actions or we are using verbs. So, the same structure. WH, auxiliary. What is the auxiliary? Yes, it is did. Okay, so WH, auxiliary, subject and verb, but in present, remember, because we are using an auxiliary. For example, here, quiero hablar del verbo o de la acción hacer. So, I am using did como auxiliar y el verbo es hacer. Al momento de ver esto junto, ustedes ya deben de saber que es en pasado, ¿ok? ¿Qué? Did you do? ¿Ok? Did you do? Hacer. ¿Ok? Hiciste last weekend. Did you finish? Finish in present, but this is the past form. Did you finish the homework? Okay? That's the idea. That's everything. So let's go back to the lesson. This is the grammar 1, 2, and 3. Past tense affirmative, past tense negative, and questions in past. You can play the video every time you want to see the grammar again. That's why I sent you the videos. So let's start. Here we have a text that is the introduction of the lesson. In the exercise number 1, we are speaking about the picture. So we are not going to do this exercise. Skip it, okay? Number 2, we are going to do the number 2, and the instructions are: read the article and match the words in bold in the article with the correct meaning. If you go to the article, you can see some bold words here. Bold means palabras como en negritas, okay? Really, really black. So look at the bold words: tornado, move, take up, etc. So let's see the exercise. For example, here, match the words with the meaning. Aquí tenemos algunas oraciones, son significados. Start doing something regularly. A person age 100. Colleagues, go to live in a new place, strong, etc. So let's see. For example, centenarian. Which do you think, or what do you think the meaning is? This is number 1 or number 2 or number 3? Well, centenarian me suena a que es a person age 100. So I am going to write number 2. Okay, and that's it. And then check me. Next. In the activity number 3, you have to complete the article. Okay, so here we have some missing verbs. Now that you know the grammar of the past tense, affirmative and negative and those, you can use or you can change these verbs. For example, if here we are saying, Fauja wasn't a young man when he what? Do is in present, but you have to use it in past or what? Okay? That's it. Then we have the grammar. We have seen it already, but we can look at the answers over here. For example, verb be, lo mismo que les expliqué. Verb be in past, was and were. Was because it is he, and those are two people, so they were. Okay? Regular and irregular. He, if you want to use want in past, wanted. Here, if you want to use were in past, is were. Okay? So that's the idea. Now let's go back. And we are going to go to the grammar number 2, that is the negative form. Do you remember that? Fauja wasn't because it is he wasn't, and it is they weren't singers. And if you remember was born is together. Aquí hay una excepción. Nosotros en español decimos nació o no nació. Se usa como tipo acción, pero ahí en inglés es como verbo to be, ¿ok? Tiene que ser siempre el was born or wasn't born, ¿ok? And then he didn't. If you notice here, you don't change want. You have to say he didn't want or she didn't work, ¿ok? Next, we are not gonna do the exercise number 6, no. Number 7. In the number 7, we are going to correct the sentences. For example, we have to read the text here, this one, okay? These sentences are about this text. So you have to read the text and identify the false information in those. For example, Fauja Singh was born on April 2nd. No, that is not correct. Why? Because here in the text we have here, he was born in India on April 1st. Okay, here is the information. So I am gonna write, he wasn't born on April 2nd, period. He was born on April 1st. That's the idea. Okay? Next one. Grammar number 3. This is about the questions. As I told you, for example, here. How old? Do you remember the question? How old are you? Or how old is he? Well, in past, it's going to be how old was he? Or with the auxiliaries, when did he move? Move in present, okay? Or why did he take up? Take up in present, okay? Next, you will solve the exercise over here. Here is with the same text, okay? You have to look for the information in the article and then write the question or the ideal question for this answer. For example, if the answer is in 1911, si están diciendo que pasó en 1911, ¿ok? ¿Qué pasó en 1911? ¿Cómo voy a saber qué pregunta es? Well, I go to the article one more time and I am going to look for this. Okay. What happened? He was born. Okay. So the question is going to be something like ¿cuándo nació? For example, because this is ¿cuándo? Do you remember? That's the idea. You are going to write the questions over here. Then we continue and we have the number 10. That is really easy. You have to choose only the correct word or the correct verb or auxiliary. For example, here, where was Fauja from or where did Fauja from? What is the right option? Was or did? Was or did? Does or did? Okay? Analyze them very well. Number 11 is not going to be done and we are going to skip those and go to the number 12. This is match the verbs, this one, with the words in the column letter B. For example, what is the right expression? Do you remember buy? Buy means comprar. So, we have to match them, relacionar. Buy school? No, I don't think so. Buy a new job? No. Buy traveling? Buy a new apartment? Could be. Buy my first car? Could be. Okay? Yeah? So that's the idea. Remember, when you finish, you can listen to the audio. And it is really important to practice. If you listen in the audio, buy my first car. Okay. So you repeat. Buy my first car. This is going to be only you with yourself at your home. So it is really good to practice. Well, let's do a review. In your agenda or in your chart, you have lesson 1, exercises. Number 2, number 3, number 7, number 9, number 10, and 12. Okay? Those are the ones you will answer. Thank you so much, guys. If you have any question,